The Matilda II, officially known as the Infantry Tank Mark II, was one of the most significant and recognizable British tanks of World War II. Its development, deployment, and battlefield performance provide an intriguing look into the evolution of armored warfare during the early to mid-20th century. This comprehensive exploration will delve into its origins, technical specifications, combat history, and overall impact on the war. The concept of an infantry tank originated from the British Army's need for a heavily armored vehicle that could support infantry operations by advancing through heavily defended positions and withstanding substantial enemy fire. The Matilda I, an earlier version, was deemed inadequate due to its limited armament and speed. Consequently, the British General Staff issued specifications for a new infantry tank that could address these shortcomings. Design work on the Matilda II began in 1936 under the direction of Sir John Carden of Vickers Armstrongs, who would later contribute to various British tank designs. The prototype was completed by 1938, and it showcased significant improvements over its predecessor, particularly in armor and firepower. The design was approved, and production commenced shortly thereafter. The Matilda II was characterized by its robust design and formidable armor, which made it one of the most heavily armored tanks of its time. Below are the key technical specifications that defined the Matilda II. Armor. The Matilda II's armor was one of its most remarkable features. It boasted up to 78 mm of frontal armor, which was nearly impervious to the standard anti-tank weapons of the time. This gave it a significant advantage in direct engagements with enemy forces. Armament. The main armament of the Matilda II was the 2-pounder, 40 mm, QFMK-9 gun, which was effective against most contemporary tanks but lacked high-explosive shells for infantry support. The tank also featured a coaxial Vickers machine gun. Engine and mobility. It was powered by two AEC diesel engines generating a combined 174 horsepower, allowing it to achieve a maximum speed of 15 miles per hour. While not fast, it was sufficient for the infantry support role. Crew. The Matilda II had a crew of 4, a commander, gunner, loader, and driver. This relatively small crew size was facilitated by the tank's design, which emphasized protection and firepower over speed and versatility. The Matilda II first saw combat during the Battle of France in 1940. At the time, the British Expeditionary Force, BEF, deployed a small number of these tanks. Despite being outnumbered and eventually forced to retreat, the Matilda II proved its worth in several engagements, demonstrating its ability to withstand enemy fire and deliver effective support to infantry units. The performance of the Matilda II during this campaign was a mixed bag. On one hand, its armor proved highly resistant to German anti-tank weapons, earning it the nickname, Queen of the Desert, among British forces. On the other hand, its relatively slow speed and mechanical issues, such as suspension problems, highlighted the need for further development and refinement. The Matilda II truly came into its own during the North African campaign, where it played a pivotal role in several key battles. The desert terrain, characterized by open spaces and limited cover, was well suited to the Matilda II's strengths. Operation Compass. One of the earliest and most successful deployments of the Matilda II was during Operation Compass, December 1940 to February 1941, a British counteroffensive against Italian forces in North Africa. The heavily armored Matildas spearheaded the attacks, breaking through Italian defenses and contributing to the rapid advance of British and Commonwealth forces. Battle of Gazala. The Matilda II continued to serve with distinction in subsequent engagements, including the Battle of Gazala in May-June 1942. Despite facing increasingly effective German anti-tank tactics and weapons, the Matilda II's armor often allowed it to survive hits that would have destroyed lighter tanks. The Desert Campaign highlighted both the strengths and limitations of the Matilda II. Its thick armor provided excellent protection against Italian and early German anti-tank guns, but the 2-pounder gun's inability to fire high-explosive rounds limited its effectiveness against fortified positions and infantry. Additionally, as the war progressed, newer German tanks and anti-tank weapons began to outmatch the Matilda II's armor and firepower. To address the evolving battlefield conditions and technological advancements, several variants of the Matilda II were developed. Matilda II CS. This variant was equipped with a 3-inch howitzer for close support, capable of firing high-explosive shells. It was intended to provide more effective infantry support, though it was produced in limited numbers. Matilda Frog, an Australian variant, the Matilda Frog, was fitted with a flamethrower for use against fortified enemy positions in the Pacific Theater. Another innovative adaptation was the Matilda Scorpion, which featured a mine-clearing flail. This variant was used to clear minefields, an essential task in both North Africa and later European campaigns. The Matilda II also saw modifications in its armor and mechanical systems to improve reliability and performance. These adaptations were crucial in extending the service life of the tank and ensuring its continued relevance on the battlefield. As World War II progressed, the limitations of the Matilda II became more apparent. By 1942, the tank was increasingly outclassed by newer German tanks such as the Panzer IV and the formidable Tiger I. These newer models featured more powerful guns and thicker armor, diminishing the relative advantage of the Matilda II. Despite these challenges, the Matilda II continued to serve in various theaters of war. The Soviet Union received Matilda IIs through the Lend-Lease program. While initially welcomed, the Soviets quickly found the tank to be underpowered and unsuitable for the fast-paced, mobile warfare on the Eastern Front. However, it did see some use in defensive roles and infantry support. Pacific Theater. The Matilda II also saw action in the Pacific, where its heavy armor was less of a disadvantage against the lightly armored Japanese tanks. Its variants, such as the Matilda Frog, were particularly useful in this theater. By late 1943 and into 1944, the Matilda II was largely phased out from frontline service in favor of more advanced tanks like the Sherman and the Churchill. Nonetheless, it remained in use in secondary roles and in some Commonwealth armies until the end of the war. The legacy of the Matilda II is multifaceted. It was a tank that exemplified the concept of heavy armor and infantry support during the early years of World War II. Its design influenced subsequent British tank development, particularly the emphasis on armor protection. The Matilda II demonstrated the importance of armored support for infantry operations. Its success in North Africa showed that a well-armored tank could significantly impact enemy defenses, shaping British tank doctrine in the years to come. Technological lessons. The limitations of the Matilda II, particularly its armament and speed, highlighted the need for balanced tank designs. These lessons were applied in the development of later British tanks, which sought to combine armor, firepower, and mobility more effectively. Historical significance. The Matilda II is remembered as a symbol of British resilience and ingenuity during the challenging early years of World War II. Its role in pivotal battles and campaigns contributed to the eventual Allied victory. In the post-war period, the Matilda II's reputation remained strong among military historians and enthusiasts. It is often showcased in museums and military collections, serving as a testament to the technological and tactical evolution of armored warfare. The Matilda II tank was a cornerstone of British armored forces during the early and mid-years of World War II. Its robust armor, while making it one of the toughest tanks of its time, was both its greatest strength and its most significant limitation. Through various campaigns, particularly in North Africa, the Matilda II proved its worth on the battlefield despite facing increasingly capable adversaries. Its development and deployment provided valuable lessons in tank design and armored warfare, influencing the design of future tanks. Ultimately, the Matilda II's legacy is one of innovation and adaptability. It showcased the critical role of armored support in modern warfare and highlighted the necessity of balancing armor, firepower, and mobility. Though eventually overshadowed by more advanced tanks, the Matilda II remains a significant chapter in the history of armored warfare and a symbol of British determination and engineering prowess during World War II.